Hello and welcome to the Ministry of the Real Truth. First, we'd like to give a immense shout out and a thank you of gratitude to all those who have taken the time to watch our videos we've created and uploaded on the different manuscripts, today's modern Bibles, etc., etc. We are so grateful to you all because you have helped our channel grow immensely, and also those who have dropped off for whatever reason. We thank you as well for taking the time to look at our videos and also subscribe, again, even though you dropped off. Thank you all. We're looking at this video basically by Dr. James Tabor, an expert on the Dead Sea Scrolls, etc., who's about to have or launch a exclusive study course on it sometime this year, where he says this. He recommends these different books so you understand that the old Judaism, the Essene sect, the Qumran, Christianity, which emerged from Judaism, etc., and everything else. So we're looking at the books he's recommended throughout this video. It's an hour long, so you can watch it in your own time, in your own leisure. We'll leave the link underneath this video. Right. Okay, the first one is The Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls. He recommended by James Van der Kam and Peter Flint. Yeah. He says it's like over 100 pages, so it's quite an extensive read. And there's a description here on the inside of the jacket, the inner jacket of the book, that the Dead Sea Scrolls found in caves near the Dead Sea 15 miles east of Jerusalem from 1947 to 1956 include the oldest existing biblical manuscripts and the remarkable texts of the purest Jewish community at Qumran. The discovery of these scrolls has added dramatically to our understanding of the varieties of Judaism at the time of Jesus and the rise of Christianity, but has also prompted heated debate about the nature of these religions. As a monumental task of transcribing and translating the Dead Sea Scrolls is finally completed, people around the world are taking stock of the significance of these ancient documents. In this book, two of the world's leading experts on these scrolls reveal the complete and fascinating story in all its detail, the amazing discovery, the intense controversies, and the significant revelations, drawing together all the evidence this timely book explores. And some bullet points: the discovery and dating of the scrolls, their relationship to the Hebrew Bible, Apocrypha, and New Testament, their messianic and apocalyptic messages, the identity, nature, and theology of the Qumran community or the Essenes, the non-biblical scrolls, controversies surrounding the scrolls. This comprehensive, up-to-date guide is a definitive introduction to all aspects of the scrolls, including their teachings, the community that created them, the world of Judaism, the origins of Christianity, our understanding of Jesus in the New Testament, featuring photos of the original text, the sites, and the scholars who deciphered them, and including illustrative passages from the scrolls. The Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls presents the most complete and accurate scholarship on the Dead Sea Scrolls available today, and it's continued on the back flap, or the back of the book, back cover of the book, or inner back cover. Yeah, so we're going to have a quick look at it. Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the significance for understanding the Bible, Judaism, Jesus, and Christianity by James Van der Kam and Peter Flint. Contents: a foreword by Emmanuel Tov, it's probably some sort of rabbi, Jewish rabbi. And he states, soon after their discovery in 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls took the world by storm, and ever since scholars and general readers alike have studied them, read them, or at least talked about them. The first scrolls were published in 1950 in what we now consider primitive editions, but at least they were released. The delay in the publication process occurred only at a later stage. Yeah, because apparently there was a Roman Catholic priest, when the Roman Catholic Church heard about these going to be translated into English, were really worried that it may say something different, right? Whereas their story says one thing, or their doctrines, etc., their dogmas, and they were afraid that if revealed to the public, they may contain something completely different, and obviously people will leave that church or point the finger and say, well, you've been lying all that time. Okay, it's not how it is. This is how it really is according to these ancient Dead Sea Scroll manuscripts and so forth. As they did with the Russian mailman or Siberian mailman in that country who claimed to be reincarnated Jesus. All these people left the Russian Orthodox Church, etc., or their churches, and flocked to see that guy. So they were worried. What they were really saying was, our money has walked off. Not only our congregation, but our money with them has walked off. So they were worried there. Yeah. And he's basically saying these different versions to who found it. Bedouins, was it a shepherd boy who just happened to be bored or something, threw a rock in there, or was it a whole lot of other ones? The story varies, and so forth. There's a preface. Discoveries, dating, archaeology and new methods. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The story of the discovery of the first Dead Sea Scrolls has become a part of Western lore. Who has not heard about the Bedouin shepherd who threw a rock into a cave, heard a crash, went in to explore and found the scrolls? The story is in that form may be accurate, but it turns out to be something of a simplification. As a matter of fact, much remains unknown about the exact circumstances under which those scrolls were discovered. The story of the discovery at first deals with just one cave. The other 10 were located at later times. That's why we're saying, first it was a young boy, maybe he was bored, threw a rock in a cave, or he lost his goat, or somebody else lost their goat, or a group of them lost their goat, and so forth. And selling the manuscripts, Metropolitan Athanasius, issue of Samuel, and John Trevor, William Brownlee and Miller Burroughs, Lysia Sukinik, must be some sort of discoverers of it, or sellers or buyers or something like that, or possibly buyers and translators. Locating and excavating the cave. By the end of 1948, nearly 2 years after the initial discovery, no scholar had yet located the manuscript cave. This is understandable when one remembers the dangers of travel in the area while the American trio was still in Jerusalem. They left in April. The British mandate in Palestine ended on May 15, 1948, and war broke out immediately. Peace was not restored until November 1948, and in January 1949 restrictions on travel were removed so that it became possible to visit the area of the cave. Sellers tried to get the Syrians to keep their promise to help in reaching the cave, but Father Boulos, who was then in charge of St. Mark's, demanded more money than the sellers could pay for the service. At this time, Joseph Saad of the Palestine Archaeological Museum was also involved in the delicate efforts to learn about the location of the cave. The person who was in large part responsible for the discovery of the cave was a Belgian observer serving on the United Nations staff, Captain Philippe Lippens, who was staying in Jerusalem and became interested in finding the cave. He went around to the various institutions that had something to do with the scrolls and gathered what information he could from people and publications about the location of the cave. And then he reports what he found. Here's the cave there. Muhammad, this is cave 1. Muhammad Id Dahib crawled through the upper opening to find the first scroll, so he climbed over here in cave 1, and then that hole was later, the larger opening was made later. And then the other caves, the subsequent fate of the cave 1 manuscripts, what happened to them. Here's another cave, cave 4. A view of cave 4 in the rear with an opening on the side. and the adjacent K5. So it must be this one here, and then one over here somewhere. Here's a bibliography, select bibliography. Dating the Dead Sea Scrolls, archaeology. Paleography, using that method. Early history. And there's the Hasmonean and Herodian period plates. Carbon 14 methods of dating. There's a number of manuscripts they found of these periods. Archaic to Hasmonean, transition to Herodian, and then Herodian, etc. There's a number of manuscripts found, and so forth. In relation to testing them, to see how old they actually were. Apparently there was like, I think it might have been 2,000 scroll copies that were actually proven fake, something like that. Yeah, the DeVoe Harding excavations. There's a profile about that guy, Roland Etienne Guérin DeVoe. Sounds like a Frenchman. Dominican priest. It's just good of the site of the buildings at Qumran. And somebody else here, Lancaster Harding, so forth. And there's 488 pages of this book. Okay, so it's quite extensive. We'll leave the link for you to go have a look at this book and study it in your own time. It's important that people know and understand fully about the Dead Sea Scrolls and what was actually said, written, etc., because it differs from the Hebrew text. Technology in the Dead Sea Scrolls, dating them on the basis of radiocarbon analysis, DNA analysis in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and so forth. So now we're going to jump to this book, The Meaning of the Dead. Okay, Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, it's one that you can borrow from Internet Archive. You just sign up, it's all free. Sign up with a name, username, password, confirm it, and this is for the books that you'll find there. They have the green logo, a green indication above it. There's a book you can borrow. It only show you like a couple of pages. So if we push that after signing up, it's renewable every hour, pending availability. So we can look at it for an hour. We'll spend another hour looking at it. After a break, we can go borrow it again. And have another break and go borrow it again. It's endless upon availability. It may take a while. Okay, so we've got other books here he's recommended. This is actually a website on the Dead Sea Scrolls in English by a guy called G. Vermes. Here is information about the author. He was a Hungarian, born in 1924, who attended the University of Budapest, went to Louvain, Belgium and France, obtained a license in Oriental History and Philology in 1952 and a doctorate in Theology in 1953. For 4 years he studied post-biblical Judaism in Paris, where for a time he was also employed at the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique and was joint editor, etc., etc. Okay, in his introduction to the Dead Sea Scrolls, goes into a lot of detail there. And as Dr. James Tabor stated in the video, Josephus speaks of these Dead Sea Scrolls, this Qumran community, all that sort of stuff, He says, beware of him because he was very Roman orientated, wanted to make a statement or report on it, etc., that would make that current Roman emperor happy. Okay? He's often referred to as untrustworthy, sellout, etc. A Jew that became Roman, that's why he had the name Josephus Flavius or Flavius Josephus, because he came under that particular family of the Flaviuses. Yeah, the community, what they were all about, at Qumran, is their rights, their beliefs, why they did what they did, wrote what they wrote. Okay. Some more information here. They're expecting a Messiah to deliver them from Roman rule, the tyrants, right? They kept themselves out of Jerusalem because they felt that the other Jews were suck-ups to the Romans, didn't like that sort of stuff. They're expecting a Messiah, or a couple of Messiahs, to rise from the dead, come back, all that sort of stuff, but they didn't. They says, okay, an apocalypse is going to happen at a certain time. It never happened. So they said, oh well, God's delaying it for a further time, 40 years from then, and it never happened. And then, unfortunately, they went to their demise, massacred possibly by the Romans, etc. So they fled and hid their manuscripts and texts in jars, which was found by years or centuries later by a Bedouin shepherd or somebody else, Bedouin wise. Okay, so we're going to go back here and have a look, see if this borrowed book. Okay, there's a borrowed book here, right? Okay, so we go back here. Look at the cover of this thing, The Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls by Davies A. Powell or Arthur Powell. Yeah, similar title, different translator or author. It states the documents that shed a brilliant new light on Christianity, A. Powell Davies, the astounding story of the Dead Sea Scrolls with a scholarly interpretation of their relationship in the Holy Scriptures and the origin of Christianity. And what does he have to say? Yeah, the true facts about one of the most amazing discoveries of our time. Here is the fabulous story of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the ancient religious document whose discovery in the cave in Transjordan throws a blinding new light on scholars' interpretations of the Old and New Testaments. In this startling and immensely readable book, Dr. A. Powell, or Arthur Powell Davies, the minister of All Souls Church in Washington, D.C., told how these scrolls were sold to the chief priest of a monastery in Jerusalem, who persuaded experienced scholars to translate them. With a great sense of drama and suspense, Dr. Davies related the astounding results of their study, which confirms the authenticity of the documents and shows their earth-shaking influence on established religion. The most important discovery in many centuries, the Dead Sea Scrolls may completely change the traditional understanding of the Bible, because they may account for the 30 years missing in the life of Christ and offer new light on the period just preceding his birth, directed at all who are concerned with religion and archaeology, as well as those who relish one of the most momentous news stories of the 20th century. This is a concise and valuable volume for both the scholar and layman, or the ordinary Joe blog. Here it confirms the authenticity of the documents and shows that it's shaking influence. Because it may, being the most important discovery in many centuries, the Dead Sea Scrolls may completely change the traditional understanding of the Bible. This was the Roman Catholic was scared if it was released to the public. It may have a different story, not in accordance with their doctrines or dictates or dogmas, etc. And people would leave their church en masse, right? Or they point the finger and say, hey, it's not how you claim it was or was written, etc. You gave us false information. And like the Russians who had the Siberian postman who became a Jesus-like figure with mentors, etc., protecting him, said, I am the reincarnation of Christ, and they all followed him. Those Orthodox churches in Russia said something like, well, we don't understand it. Yeah, all these people have left our churches. In other words, i.e., they left, and our money, funding, etc., went with them. Oh, woe is us. What are we going to do? The Meaning of the Dead Sea Scrolls by A. Powell Davies, a mental book. And here's the contents. The manuscripts from Wadi Qumran, exploration and further discoveries, excavation of the Kubut Qumran, and so forth. The dating of the scrolls, the sect of the scrolls, you see scenes, the community at Qumran, the scholar and the laity, and so forth. The scrolls of Jesus, here's a map of the Dead Sea, etc. Apparently they got baptized in that. Even though it was stinging their eyes, somehow they got baptized in that. And the Jordan, supposedly. The discovery of the scrolls, the manuscripts from Wadi Qumran, another map. Yeah, a lot of information here. People involved. Excavation of Kubut Qumran. There's a picture here. Chart showing approximate relationships of monastery, caves, 1947, and water supply. All important if you're in a hot desert area. Vicissitudes of the scrolls. What the scrolls contain. And so forth. Significance of this discovery ignored by New Testament scholars. See, you can borrow it. Our borrowing hour ends at 5:52 p.m. New Zealand time, right? And you can return it right now. You can stop it right now, and you can borrow it again later on, and borrow it again, and borrow it again, as long as it's available. Okay. Significance of the discovery ignored by New Testament scholars until recently. Well, at that time, the Dead Sea Scrolls had been largely ignored by the majority of New Testament scholars. The Catholic magazine Commonweal, was it supposed to be Commonwealth, December 9, 1955, suggests that the reason may be that many of them did not have adequate training in Hebrew and the Semitic background necessary to handle these texts. In view of the importance of what is involved, this is surely an insufficient reason. Whatever technical qualifications the New Testament scholars lacked could readily have been supplied by Semitic specialists among their colleagues. There have also been, since 1948, an ever-increasing number of informative articles in the archaeological and biblical journals which New Testament scholars are supposed to read. Many of the questions at issue could even have been evaluated by consulting standard reference sources such as the Biblical Encyclopedia. In any case, it was a situation that could not continue. And so forth. Dating of the scrolls. Stormy debate on a crucial question. The evidence of paleography. The range of Hebrew writings familiar to the paleographer begins with cuneiform inscriptions in Phoenician, or the Canaanite language from which Hebrew was evolved. It concludes with the square or Aramaic text that began to be used in about the 5th century BC, and which in its finely developed form is still used today. And so forth. And here's the alphabetical English equivalent. Alphabetical modern Hebrew script. 11th century AD manuscript, marriage deed of 1065 in the British Museum, and so forth. They look pretty much the same to begin with, by the looks of it. Argument gives way to archaeology. Archaeology, numismatics, was it numismatics, and the radiocarbon test. the sect of the scrolls, the elite of a chosen people, the community at Qumran, or the Essenes, the people of the Sinai covenant, and so forth. Okay. So if you like this particular video, we suggest, if you have the time, watch this video by Dr. James D. Tabor. It's very, very interesting and informative. He puts it across really well. The pros and the cons in relation to the Dead Sea Scrolls and the traditional Hebrew text, or the modern text, or the Masoretic text, and so forth. We quite enjoyed it, so we subscribed. He has some other videos he goes into detail about. We may do part 2 of the other books that he's recommending, so you can have a look at those as well. As we said, we'll leave the links to all of these videos, all of these books, etc., under this video. So if you liked it, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like, add your comments below, and then go tell all your family, friends, neighbours, church friends, Jewish friends, Muslim friends, etc. about this video. Recommend it to them, because they may have a vast interest in the ancient Dead Sea Scrolls and so forth, and it may open their mind, make them more aware of it, and fully understand it better. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video, this particular presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if you liked it and you want part 2, and we'll do that for you exclusively. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we will see you then.